Warning: the Federal Communications Commission has determined the following content to be emotionally harmful. Snowflakes should not view this content under any circumstances, even if supervised by a G.I. Joe, Navy SEALs, Army vet, or someone with good common sense. The views and opinions expressed, including the depictions of persons of color, corrupt politicians, white people with or without a tan, haters who have yet to brush their teeth typing angrily in the comment section with hot breath syndrome, do not reflect any official policy or position of the U.S. government. This program contains graphic language, dark comedy, unique intelligence, creativity, a high credit score, and high blood pressure when triggered. This program has also been accused of racism, violence, misogyny, mansogyny, feminism, MGTOWism, defacement of celebrities, and of course, being a bully. Welcome to Thought Crimes.
What's up, everybody? This is your man P Solo back in the building again, ladies and gentlemen. This is your man P Solo. I am back, folks. Look, let me tell you what we're about to do. What we're about to do right now, I'm about to talk about that album by that man Nas, and of course, the one and only DJ Premier. All right, man. Come on, man. What we talking about right now? Let's go ahead and get that one right there for the public, ladies and gentlemen. A round of applause. All right, this album is supposed to be coming out on the 12th, 12/12, of course, ladies and gentlemen. That would be December 12th, and you guys know Nas and DJ Premier have yet to disappoint at all. They have never really disappointed. I don't think they've had that many recent collaborations. I think a few of them hit far. I think a few of them here and there, to be honest with you. But for the most part, Nas has been really doing a wonderful run with the likes of Hit Boy, and then he's had some other subsequent guesses. Not too long ago he did the joint with Mobb Deep. He had a couple guest starring features there, and then he had the stellar verse that was just really cutting up with Big L too, by the way, and his verse was incredible. But let's talk about this album cover here. All right, Nas and DJ Premier announced new album, Light Years, okay? And again, that's going to be on 12/12. And look, I got to give it to Nas and DJ Premier. My personal opinion, I think they got the best rap album cover of the year. All right, and I know people, they probably going to be bringing up everything else in the book. They're going to be telling me about their cousin got an album cover. Yo, P, my cousin got an album cover. You ain't even checked that out, man. You don't know what you're talking about. They probably going to be talking about their aunties. They're going to be talking about everything else. But I'm going to say right now, these boys right here, this is the best album cover in rap that I didn't see. It's fire. I'm sure the expectation is ridiculous because look, all right, just a little bit of brief history here concerning this album cover. Nas and DJ Premier have been flirting with the idea of doing a whole album together for, look, I could probably guess about, I'm going to probably say about 2 decades. I'm just keep it real with you all. All right. This is one of those long-awaited duos or debut duos that it looked like it's finally happening. Back then, when MF Doom was on his incredible run, and then you had Ghostface, he was on his incredible run, and Ghostface and MF Doom, because they had such stellar chemistry with each other on the Mouse and the Mask album with Danger Mouse and MF Doom. And then they had some other features on there like Talib Kweli and some other people as well. CeeLo also too, by the way. But Ghostface Killah and MF Doom both stood out very well. And at that time, Ghostface was like, yeah, man, I would love to do an album with MF Doom. MF Doom at the time while he was alive, he said the same thing. And they kept talking about it, talking about they was working on it. They had scheduling conflicts, and Ghostface was like, I'm trying to get MF Doom in there. And then MF Doom, it looked like he might have been dealing with health issues at the time. So we didn't really get that. All right. The only reason I'm bringing that up, because around that time, another duo that the public was waiting for was DJ Premier and Nas. In fact, Nas has, I'm sure they seem like they've grown out of that now, but I would say for a long time, I think Nas had the most hypercritical fan base in hip hop. So when Nas did the first installment of his series with Hit Boy, I know everybody's like, they like it now after the 6 album run. In fact, when Nas did King Disease with Hit Boy, Nas hardcore fan base, they was really critical of him. They was like, I don't like it. I don't want to see no more Hit Boy and Nas together. And at the time, I made a joke. I said, Nas and Hit Boy, actually, I like their energy. I think they need to do about 5 more albums together. They end up doing 6 albums together, and then now people are like, they got their favorites. It was a very brilliant move artistically, because the Magic series satisfied the base that was really criticizing Nas early on with King Disease at the beginning. And then the King Disease series was kind of satisfying that side of Nas's fan base or his following that were really enjoying a lot of his It Was Written type era too, because Nas kind of got like a split base. At that point in time, it was the people that was really looking for him to do another Illmatic or keeping that Illmatic type of energy. And then you had other people that was like, nah, man, I want to see some more Street Jeans joints. I want to see some more It Was Written joints. I Gave You Power. If I Ruled the World. And that base was satisfied with the King Disease series. So it was a trilogy there and a trilogy with Magic. All right. But one of the reasons why a lot of the pro-Illmatic babies from all different eras, because Illmatic is one of those timeless albums that new generations fall in love with. The album is one of the most magical albums of hip-hop. But the reason why when King's Disease dropped, the first one with Hit Boy, the reason why people at the time, some of the critics were a little bit more scratcher. A lot of people, though, was more receptive to the album than weren't. But again, Nas has always had this nagging part of his base that just was always getting on him about not doing another Illmatic type level. Remember, the pro hardcore Illmatic heads, like, they really are into the Lost Tapes. The first Lost Tapes, I think, is another classic by Nas. It was one of my favorite albums by him. But nonetheless, they were kind of looking for that type of energy. And some of them, they didn't like the collaboration with Fabio Foreign on King Disease 1. They didn't like some of the beat selections. They didn't like a lot of that stuff, all right? But they still said Nas was spitting. Well, one of the reasons why they were complaining early on, because they felt for a long time, remember, this is the same base, they were really, for almost 2 decades, were really yearning for DJ Premier and for Nas to do a collaboration album together. So then when Nas was like, yeah, by the way, I'm doing an album with Hit Boy, they were pissed off. They said, man, what? Who Hit Boy? That's how they were thinking. So I think artistically and strategically, I think the Magic trilogy from Nas and then the King Disease trilogy, I actually think, I know on an artistic level we give the credit for what it is, but I actually think on a marketing level too, I thought it was a genius move. It's like you got both bases to shut up, all right? But finally, though, at this point in time, and Nas was able to garner some new listeners from a new era with the King Disease run, and then of course the Magic run, because you got to keep in mind he's an elder statesman in hip hop. You have a new era of individuals that, they hearing Nas for the first time with both the Magic trilogy and the King Disease trilogy. So for them, they're like, man, I'm taking all of this hip hop candy. So they're looking forward to light years with DJ Premier and Nas as well. So, of course they debuted the album cover. Again, I think it's one of the dopest album covers I've seen this year for the most part. And again, you guys can always drop your comments in the comment section and tell me, which album cover you feel has taken pole position as the best rap album cover this year. I think Chance the Rapper had a dope album cover. And I think with rollouts, I think what the Clips did was the traditional run in the sense of, I think it's one of the last of the sense, like sitting down with the journalists, having those conversations. But, I feel the best rollout that we didn't seen for an album in the past 2 years is easily GNX, niggas. It's not even a question. I don't think people even look at GNX as like the battle, the Super Bowl, and the GNX tour announcement. That was all a rollout for that album. All right, and then the rollout kept going after the album too, by the way, because he hit the tour. So I think in the last 2 years, probably in the last couple of years, I definitely think Kendrick got the crown for the best GNX, for the best rollout for an album that I've seen. But this album right here, I can only imagine what this album is going to sound like. They even keeping it under wraps, because when you go to Wikipedia, you know me, I'm nosy. I was trying to look up some track numbers. Look at this, Untitled 1. Okay, well, no. Booyah! All right, look at that, ladies and gentlemen. New York State of Mind Part 3. Writers, Nasir Jones and Christopher Martin. That's DJ Premier's real name, ladies and gentlemen. But as you can see, Nas and Premo kept everything under wraps. And I think people don't understand, for a little bit, again, more context. This is actually one of those collab albums that people have been waiting for a very long time. And the fact that they're actually getting it, this is a big deal. This is a big deal for some people, for a lot of hip hop heads. Christmas came early. Again, I know for me, Nas and Premo, MF Doom and Ghostface, we didn't really get a real album from them. What they did with MF Doom and Ghostface is they put a bunch of loose leaves together because, MF Doom unfortunately passed. And let me see who else. I think we got a Blackout. We did get Blackout 3 from Red and Method Man. Technically, that was kind of always going to be expected. But, no, this album here, this is a big deal. This is a big deal. I know some people, they probably like, wait, what? No, this is a big deal. A lot of people have been waiting for this album. Like I stated, in some cases, there's some people, some hip-hop heads, they've been waiting for this album for over 3 decades, because Nas and Premo have been talking about this for that long, to be honest with you. They've been talking about this for that long, and Nas and Premier, they don't have an album. They don't have a record together that is garbage. You get what I'm saying? And I'm going to be honest with you. You really have to be a trash rapper. This is how dope of a producer, beatsmith, and an engineer Premier is. I honestly feel he's a bit of a cheat code. Not for Nas. Nas has made some very horrible beats sound really good. And then some of the beats that people classify as horrible, like a lot, because Nas is extremely jazz influenced. His daddy's a jazz musician, Oludari. Y'all should check out his work, really dope work. But Nas is he's jazz inspired first and foremost, even how he flows. So sonically, things he'll gravitate to throughout his career, whether they're contemporary beats or they're jazz influence from a particular era of the 60s, 70s. He also likes a lot of 70s influenced jazz themes, but especially New York. I want to be clear, because there's different in sound aesthetics with East Coast jazz from the 60s and 70s versus Southern jazz, and then of course West Coast jazz. And I know some people like, nigga, what you talking about? They all got saxophones. How can you tell the difference? You can tell the difference, all right? But because Nas was doing that a lot of times, there had became this trope that Nas chose whack beats, and I never thought that. All right, I never really thought that. I think Nas has been able, because of how dope of an MC and a technician he is. I actually think he was able to bring some beats from the dead. I'm gonna be honest with you. Even beats that people thought were fire, I didn't think they were that fire, but he was able to make it work. Premier, on the other hand, is a cheat code. And I'm saying this for a reason. You really have to be an ass rapper to sound terrible on a Premier beat. I'm going to be honest with you. You have to be Lil Pump level. You have to be Tekashi 6ix9ine level. You have to be grade A trash. This is how magical DJ Premier's metal fingers are. All right, you have to be that trash of an MC to really mess up a DJ Premier beat. All right, and that's just my personal opinion. And also, I think Premier, Pete Rock. If we get down to the South, Corey Moe. I can, if you go to the West, the late great Tracks a Million. There's a lot of guys you can see that definitely were defining eras of hip hop. The production of Devin the Dude. Of course, Dungeon Family too, by the way. But Premier has, timeless beats. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think a lot of DJ Premier's production, to me, has a lot of immortal energy. And I think. It takes you in a other realm, whimsical space, and his beats are like without time. So with that being the case, look, I think this is a very, 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 very good potential, and I'm going to see how many tracks are they going to be giving us. Good, thank God. I ain't going to lie, y'all. I ain't going to lie. I was hoping this ain't one of them albums where it's just 7 songs. I'm not going to lie to you all. All right? I know some collaborative efforts, as dope as they are, they kind of be short run. I think that happened with Nas and Kanye West, and was the album as bad as everybody made it out to be? I'm going to say yes. All right? I'm going to say yes because of the expectation, because it was Kanye West and Nas, and it's like best of both worlds, no R. Kelly. You get what I'm saying? So when people heard it, not all of the songs were that terrible. I think Adam and Eve was decent, but I just think for the expectation that people were looking forward to, and Nas eventually explained why artistically it didn't meet people's or the fans' expectation or the music listeners' expectations. He said that Kanye West was like producing like 7 different albums at the time. And that is true because I think around that time, this is when he was going all in with good music. He was trying to be his own Jay-Z Rockefeller situation. But Kanye West does more than Jay-Z artistically. Like, he's a producer, he does engineering, he goes in there. I'm not saying Jay-Z's trash. Jay-Z's a rapper. A lot of people say he comes in, he literally is one shot, one take, one Hove type guy, one take Hove type guy. But Nas said at the time, he said that Kanye West was kind of all over the place, and we felt it. Look, I'm gonna be honest with you. It felt like an EP. I know they say it was an album. It felt like an EP. Here, on the other hand, he's locked in completely with Premo. Looks like we're going to be getting 15 tracks. I'm sure they're going to be spinning back around for like either bonus material or a deluxe. But I will say this. Nas and LL Cool J, I do have to give it to them. I think they do the best with the stewardship of the hip hop from their era. And this is what I mean by that. LL Cool J has always had the legendary Rock the Bells. And what was great about what LL did, I think LL Cool J is one of the most important rappers in hip hop history, my personal opinion. But what he was able to do, Rock the Bells isn't just for like, nostalgia for people that grew up in the the late 80s, or they were like 25 in the 90s, things of that nature, the Gen X class, but Rock the Bells also allows for new acts from different eras that were coming behind them to be broken in as well. And I think LL Cool J, I actually think that's what leads up to influence in mass appeal, the way Nas has been able to do and run mass appeal and curate it. Because for all of the complaints people do give the state of hip hop, let's be real. And there's different reasons. There's narcissism. There's people blowing through their money. There's people that just don't care. But a lot of potential stewards from that era a lot more of them could have carried the torch in their own fashion, because hip hop, like a lot of rebellious genres, rock and roll was for the youth coming out the gate, and then people had a chance to age either out or mature in rock and roll. And now we've been seeing that with hip hop, starting with LL Cool J. I know people will start with Jay-Z. I think Jay-Z got criticized because the type of rap music he made, and he was older, so the demographic of men, specifically the street niggas, they were gonna call him old anyway. You get what I'm saying? Because if you think about it, LL Cool J is older than Jay-Z. He was still rapping at that time, and people weren't calling LL Cool J old like that, because LL Cool J's demographics that he prioritized in general had more to do with like b-boy hip hop, and also like R&B infused records too. So LL was able to kind of quietly age more smoothly and maturely than Jay-Z at the time. And one of the reasons why Jay-Z appeared more relevant, like I stated before, I think Jay-Z's 1 year younger than Daddy Kane, actually. All right. The reason why at that time he was able to kind of appear more relevant, he was still making hits, but you got to remember, like, LL wasn't going to do a bunch of features with Jeezy. LL wasn't going to do a bunch of features with Rick Ross. Like, LL wasn't going to look for the trap niggas and the drill niggas to try to do records with, right? It wasn't that he wasn't open to it, but that wasn't how he prioritized his seniorship or his seniority in hip hop versus what Jay-Z was doing. And I think what LL did with Rock the Bells, it was a great way to show hip hop. You can, and also, it's one of the few contemporary events where you can actually bring your family too, by the way. I think people don't, like I said, there's a lot of like kind of like way people look at LL. Like, people understand like he's a pillar in hip hop, but I don't think people really like give him all the credit for how he kind of moves when it comes to a guardian in hip hop. He still has an event that allows for boys and girls to show up, children. You can bring your wife, ladies can bring their husbands, or whatever the case may be. People can bring their families and things of that nature, and people can just have fun with this introduction of this culture thing called hip hop. I think Nas, look, I'm gonna have to put him at number 2 when it comes to a guardian of hip hop. How he's been moving with being able to assist in the layup with the posthumous vocals of Prodigy, the late great Prodigy, in the really dope Mobb Deep album. Even what's been going on with De La Soul, and when Nas said with his father on Street's Disciple, when he talked about bridging the gap, that's actually been a theme of Nas for a long time. When Nas did the unauthorized biography of Rakim on Street's Disciple, there were people that didn't know much about Rakim. Now, there was a bit of kind of like some static between Nas and Rakim, and I think they kind of smoothed everything out at the time. But Rakim, I think he said, he didn't like that his daughter Destiny was mentioned. Ironic, I think Nas and Rakim's daughters, I think they got the same name too, by the way, right? But nonetheless, though, Nas still went out of his way to tell people about the legacy of Rakim. The unauthorized biography of Rakim is actually one of my favorite hip hop songs too, by the way. And you've seen Nas do it when he told the history of like Kool G Rap or Daddy Kane or even Lauryn Hill, or sometimes Nas will shine light on some of his contemporaries or the ones that are behind him. Like, he gave props to J. Cole and Kendrick and even Drake early on. He hasn't really been seen as somebody that's trying to vice grip or blackball the generation that comes behind him. That's why I personally think when you're talking about like curators of the craft, I definitely put LL Cool J and Nas up in the same space. Rock the Bells, what they're able to do, and then of course Mass Appeal, which gives hip hop another half-life too for a lot of these people who really, some of these guys will tell you, like, Havoc, in his interviews, he talked about, like, how to, kind of track and move in this era. A lot of these guys from the 90s, they're not familiar how to really wheel and deal in the internet. Some people are like, well, why aren't they saying something? But some of them don't know where to go. Some of them, they try to get on live and then they end up getting into an argument with a fan because they come from the 90s and they like, yo, man, I shank you. You know what I'm saying? So they could get in trouble that way, but just allowing for the art to be able to grow and a maturity process. Again, I think Jay-Z has his space for what he's been able to do, when able to, kind of shine lights on new artists. I just feel not Rakim, but I feel LL Cool J mass appeal, and then Rock the Bell and everything else with Nas, I think is really dope in this process. And I think this is good. I mean, we've seen what the Clips were able to do, with Malice, I think 50 being 50 or 51, and then Pusha T at age 47 or 48. I think they were able to craft a really, really good album. And I think it's really dope on that note. I think this is the best rap cover I done seen this year. 50 best rap covers. Y'all check it out when y'all get a chance. I believe the number one was Lil Kim. Hardcore, they had some other ones in the mix as well. On top of that, some of them I saw make the list that I was like, I don't know about that. I think they had like Kanye West, A Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Great album. Not my favorite Kanye West album cover. Of course, any one of the Bear album covers is actually one of Kanye West's best album covers. Actually, I also don't really think, I think Vultures, the album cover from Vultures, Vultures 1, I thought that was a really good album cover as well. But people need to get back to album art. They do need to get back to album art too, by the way. Also, let me see. Let me check this out real quick. Shouts out to the Black Perspective too, by the way. Art on Wax. I'll leave this link below too, by the way. A hip-hop album cover that speaks volumes, written by I think it's Shade, or she said not Sade. All right, so I think it's Shade or Shad. Well, shouts out to her too, by the way. But she does a great job of breaking this down about dope album covers in hip hop. MC Shan, just a lot of beautiful album covers. So I personally don't think Nas got a bad album cover. My personal opinion about that. Illmatic, It Was Written, Nostradamus. I think people really banged on that album too hard, my personal opinion, because when you go listen to it, come on now. How many niggas are making songs better than Project Windows featuring Ron Isley? Come on now. Like, even some of the guys that was dissing Nas because of this album, they don't have a better song than Project Windows with Ron Isley. Looking out my Project Windows, right? I think it's a dope album cover. It is a classic to me personally. But yeah, Nas got, like, come on, man. Can't wait. This is going to be fantastic, awesome. Looking forward to it. As far as I'm concerned, I know people are going to disagree with me, but I think hands down, Premo and Nas, they got the best rap album cover this year. I'm going to keep it real with you all. All right. Definitely homage to Rakim and Eric B. Look, I don't know. Listen, maybe I'm trying to decode where I shouldn't, but I don't know if Nas is trying to hint that he might have a feature on here with Rakim. All right, that's just a theory. We'll see. If that's the case, I wouldn't be surprised. I think Rakim is still active. He still he put out an album. I think either this year or last. I think it was this year. It was this year. So that would be dope. I know Nas and Rakim did do a song together. They did too. They did the Adidas joint with KRS-One and Kanye West. And then they did another one with Alicia Keys, New York State of Mind. But it was on Alicia Keys' album. And it was real dope. But we'll see. But hands down right now, I think Nas and Premo got the best rap album cover. Looking forward to it. Looked like they were locked into the studio with each other. You guys drop your comments below. Tell me, what do you think about the album cover? What do you think about this long-awaited album? 30 years in the making, damn near. You know, like I said, I'll say at the least 20 years in the making, but I do know for a fact it's about 2 decades in the making, and they've been talking about doing an album together for the longest. I think at one point in time, it was on the table for Nas and Pete Rock to do an album together. I would have loved to have heard that as well. But Pete Rock and Nas, they got like a sibling rivalry, brother love-hate relationship with each other. I don't know how it started. Hopefully it'll end because they really make magic together as well. But I'm looking forward to this joint as on top of that. Folks, drop your comments below. Of course, to support this channel, you can support us on Patreon. And again, you know, guys, we'll be looking forward to it. This album will be dropping. Light Years. This is called Light Years. It will be dropping 12/12. Depending on the reception of the album, I wouldn't be surprised if Nas and Premier spin the block again as well. So we'll see. I know Premier stays in the lab all the time. He's a studio rat, and so does Nas, so I wouldn't be surprised about it. But either way, great day in hip-hop. We'll be looking forward to it as well. One thing I will say, though, I would like for Lauryn Hill to pull something like this as well. I'm going to be honest with you. Lauryn Hill, you saw in the King Disease, within the King Disease series, she actually stole the show from Nas. I think she still has lyrical prowess. I think she still gets busy, but I definitely would like to see Lauryn Hill or even Lil' Kim, you know, but I really want to hear Lauryn Hill. I really want to see if Lauryn Hill would lock in the studio with a producer, whether it is Premo, hell, it could be Pete Rock. I don't care. But if she could lock in the studio with someone and just give us like 10 tracks, I think that'll be really dope as well. On top of that, you know, I'll be looking forward, you know, to it, you know, if that happens. But I think while these, you know, men and women have the vitality, I think they need to put out as much art as they can if they choose to do so. You know, whatnot with not interfering in their personal lives. I mean, you know, we saw Fat Man Scoop pass away. DJ Clark Kent, dope producer, had some of the best production with Biggie Smalls. You know, if you know, these guys from this era, these men and women from this era can lock in and continue to give up these layups while they got the vitality. Hopefully they're inspired by Nas. I mean, potentially he's on a 7-album run right now. But again, this is a big deal for hip-hop because this album has been a long time in the making. Loving what Nas is doing with mass appeal and showing you that hip-hop can be used in contemporary media if you know what you're doing. And I got to give it to Nas and the people at Mass Appeal. They know what they're doing. They know how to market and advertise hip-hop. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, I am your man, P Solo. You guys have a wonderful day. Drop your comments below and be sure to check out more of our exclusive material on Patreon. Peace.
To this day. To this day.
Batman.
You shouldn't turn your back on me.
Is that a challenge?
You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Black folks are nosy. They have specials. Nosy specials. Why does a bee make honey? You ain't a bee. Why do you give a fuck?
Where's the kaboom? There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
does. He does.
Go to our Patreon for more. And don't bother me.